Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First off, I want to welcome everyone to our March webinar for VRM. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Andrea Valenzuela. I'm the General Manager for VRM. I want to thank everyone for being flexible. Normally, we have these webinars a little bit earlier in the month. This month, we wanted to wait closer to the end and facilitate with our guest speakers here today. I'm going to introduce them. So if you joined us last month, then you'll remember that we met with Maureen Schilling. She is the Senior Director of Revenue Management over in Habit. So thank you for joining us again this month. And then we have Miller Hawkins, who is actually one of our VRM customers. He is the owner of Booe Realty and the immediate past president of VRMA. And we're so excited to have him on today. And really what we want to do is, we show you guys a lot about different solutions and products and integrations that can be utilized with VRM as a software. But we really wanted to take it up a notch this month and actually have one of our customers actually share with us his experience on utilizing one of our solutions, which would be RevMax today. So thank you guys for joining again this month. And I'm super excited to hear everything that you guys have to offer us. So Maureen, I'm gonna kick it over to you.
Okay, great. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm Maureen Schilling, like Andrea said, and I am the Director of Client Services, and I'm also one of the co-founders of RevMax. My assistant co-founder, or co-founder, Desiree Garcia, and I both came from the hotel industry. We both worked on very sophisticated revenue management software. She came from Marriott, I came from Hilton, and we started working together in vacation rentals about 17 years ago. So we came on board and in the vacation rental space, saw that it was just emerging in revenue management, and so recognized very quickly that it needed the tools and the solutions in order to enable property management companies to do the same types of things that hotels have done for a long time. And like everybody knows, there's very little transferability between how a hotel operates and how vacation rentals operate. So there was a tremendous amount of customization that has to go into a revenue management solution for vacation rentals. Data is very important, and we work with multiple different data partners, and we're grateful for their hard work to serve our industry and bringing to us that valuable information that enables everything else that we do. So we're a fairly new integration with VRM. And Miller was one of our clients, first VRM clients to come on board. And I know our team had a great time working with him and through onboarding. And we're really grateful to be able to speak with him today. RevMax is the most full service revenue management solution you're going to find in the marketplace. There's nothing else like it out there. What normally you'll see is dynamic pricing solutions. And we hear a lot about dynamic pricing. And dynamic pricing is really only one piece of the whole ecosystem that goes into revenue management. You have data analytics, you have marketing, you have all of these other functions. And dynamic pricing isn't always going to be a one size fits all. So we'll talk about a little bit of what Miller's company is doing here today with revenue management. So Miller, I'm going to hand this over to you at this point. So tell us a little bit about your company. So where are you located? How many properties do you have? And tell us your journey to revenue management.
Thanks, Maureen and Andrea. Thanks for allowing me to be here today. I'm a strong advocate for VRM. I'm now a strong advocate for RevMax and all of the Inhabit products. Currently right now, I'm the, as Andrea said, I'm the owner and president of Booe Realty here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We have approximately 100 vacation rentals, several hundred annual rentals, and a full service real estate sales team. I bought the business back in '95, so I've been in this business for approximately 28 years. I've seen everything from taking reservations on a piece of paper all the way to the internet coming available, and websites and booking online and OTAs and revenue management popped up, a few years ago. The thing that I think pride myself on with our owners is we're trying to find multiple ways to maximize their revenue without nickel and diming them on extra fees and charges and so on. Through my membership and then board of director and then presidency with the VRMA, I've come very close to quite a few hundred people out there in the industry. Well, I'd heard of the other revenue management products that are out there. I looked into them. They were kind of expensive. They didn't offer a lot of different options. And I didn't really have a good grasp or good feeling about it. So when I was at the VRMA conference last fall, talking with Doug Brindley, I kept asking him, who is this young kid that's in front of me, that's hitting the ball, playing in front of us at the VRMA golf tournament? Who's this young kid that keeps hitting the ball like 300 yards and looking around smiling? And it's like, and he goes, well, that's Austin. He was with RevMax. And I went, so as we kept playing throughout the day, I started talking to him. And long story short, when I got back from Vegas, I said, I'm interested in revenue management. I'm interested in RevMax. Go ahead and give me the dog and pony show. And so then I'm learning that it's in Habit IQ. Then I'm learning that I've talked to other people that were on RevMax, and I was like, let me see what. First of all, let me see if VRM if there's an integration there. Lo and behold, it's an integration in there. But they said you're going to be the beta tester, and I've been the beta tester for the VRM on quite a few products over the years. And I said, sure. So what I was looking for with the revenue management and RevMax in particular was, first of all, price. Is this something that I could afford to do? I know that's going to generate more income for your homeowners and thus yourself. But I was looking at price. I was looking at support. I know VRM was not going to be the one supporting me. It was going to be RevMax is the one that was going to be supporting me through VRM. And I wanted to know what options I had. Was there just a one price, percentage, of your revenue, or price per month? And lo and behold, I found out that there's multiple options that you can choose, multiple paths you can choose from. I did not want, when I first went into revenue management, I thought it was going to be okay, I'm going to sign up for revenue management with RevMax. I'm going to set my prices. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm not going to have to worry about it, set it and forget it. And at the end of the year, my homeowners are going to think that I've hung the moon because all this great revenue is coming in and I don't have to do anything. That could not have been further away from the truth. It's not a set it and forget it product. It should not be a set it and forget it product. Yeah, this is something that is hands-on. And, when you get training the right way that we've gotten it, we've received this training, it is a product that will enhance what you have. And it both ways. It may lower your rates a little bit because they're needed to be lowered. And it's going to bring in revenue that you normally wouldn't get when your rates are higher. On the other hand, as your properties fill up, it's going to increase your rates, just what revenue management is supposed to do. And we've been tremendously pleased. We've been doing it for a little over 2 months now, and we've been very, very pleased with the product.
So when you're talking about dynamic pricing, a lot of people think, okay, well, what does that look like, right? And so in a lot of products, what you're going to get is that they're going to take a sample set of comps that is similar to your inventory, and they're going to pre-assign those comps to your inventory. And then your inventory is just going to start making motions. Well, what we learned through this process of revenue management developing through the vacation industry is that because there are so many differences between product, and it matters if you're on the beach, for example, first row versus second row, night and day, right? Complete difference. Mountain property, if you're on the lower part of the mountain versus mountain where you have the view, total difference. It could be same product, all similar amenities, but completely different. So what we found is that dynamic pricing, like a market kind of based pricing model, it works for a portion of inventory, but it doesn't work for all inventory. So RevMax has 4 different types of pricing. You're going to have your market-based pricing. So you can assign that for the percentage of inventory that market-based pricing would work for, that kind of model of, there's so many similar properties. This one is very common. And so I can assign that market-based pricing tool to it. You can do that. It's an easy button. You just turn it on and let it go, right? Then we offer what's called comp set based pricing. So this one has a little bit more time commitment during the setup process because it allows you to be more specific. And that's where you say, okay, well, I don't want the whole market. I want first row along the beach, or I want the bottom of the mountain, or I need something with a view. And so I have to take from the market, I need to select only the ones that are true competitors to my inventory. And that's called comp set pricing. And so that you can use that. And then you can use the tool that works for one size really does kind of fit all, because you can create your own strategies in it, which is called Max Shield. And that's what you decided to go with, is Max Shield. And I'll show you a sample of what a Max Shield map looks like here in just a second. But the foundation of it is that you are going to be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to separate my inventory out into similar segments. So my 2 bedrooms would be in one segment, my 3 bedrooms would be in another, my 4 bedrooms would be in another. But maybe in those categories, you have pet friendly properties, and those fly off the shelf right away, right? COVID had like super high adoption rates for pets, and people want to get away with animals now. So pet friendly properties, that could be a premium product, even if it's very similar to other product. You could have some properties that have premium amenities. Maybe they have saunas are really big now. Saunas and hot tubs and all of those. And so it's a premium class of inventory. And so you would want them segmented into their own pieces, because the standard 2-bedroom has a way different demand than something like a 3-bedroom premium or pet friendly or something. The booking window for that, the booking pace for that is going to be different. So Max Shield allows you to say, okay, well, let's think about my inventory. I'm going to divide it up into segments 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many you have. And then I'm going to allow those segments to dynamically price differently, depending upon what those segments are doing. So instead of the whole thing making a big change, you're drilling down into just the changes that you want. And it's being sensitive to supply and demand as you move forward on a property by property basis. So you're not getting you're not getting like a big difference through all of your inventory. You're getting just the differences that you need in order to get the occupancy. Now, one of the things that's important to note is that we offer all of those choices, and you can use all of them for your inventory. So some people say, I'm going to use comp sets for the properties that I know the comp set pricing would work for. I'm going to use Max Shield for the other properties that, the luxury properties, the ones that, they don't really have a lot of comps for. And then for the market-based pricing, since that's so quick and easy, the ones that are really common in my marketplace, I'm just going to use that for that inventory. So you can mix match anything that you want. So that's what you chose. So let me show the group what that looks like here. This is just a sample. So this is not going to be, this is not specifically your company, but this is just a sample. So for Max Shield, like I said, you're going to set up groups of your inventory based upon how they move together. So pet friendly together, 4 bedrooms together, 2 bedrooms together, beachfront together, that sort of thing. And then every single day, the system's going to sense what demand is for each of those individual segments. So if your 2 bedrooms are not performing, they're not going to have a price change. If your 4 bedrooms are performing really well, they might have an upward price change. And same thing, if you're seeing weaker demand, then maybe the price change will go down for just that segment, but not for all of it, not for the other properties that may be performing normally or better. And so this is what a map looks like. All of those groups get assigned to either one map, or they might have multiple different maps. So this is what this means. This, when it determines what the occupancy is for a group on every single day, it's going to put it in a category, in a column. And it might say, on this day, your inventory is between 31 and 40% occupied. So I'm going to have my inventory in that segment look at this column. Now, the next factor is going to be, well, how far out from arrival am I? Okay, so you go down here. Maybe you're 30 days out from arrival. And you say, you know what? Between 31 and 40 days out, that's normal for me. And so I am not going to, let me just get out of this. It seems to be doing like a little thing there. That's normal for me. I don't know why it's doing that. And so I'm just going to not have a change, right? But if I get within 20 days of arrival, I'm going to, if I'm not over that 40% occupancy, I am going to start having my inventory come down by 5%. Okay, great. So if I get within 15 days of arrival and my company still hasn't, those properties still have not gotten to at least 40%, I am going to bring my rates down by 10%. So as you get closer to arrival and you have not increased in occupancy percent in that subcategory, that subgroup, it's going to start reducing the price strategically for your inventory so that you can get in front of as many people as possible with the best rate so that you can acquire the booking.
And if Maureen, if I can just add something in there as a user, I wanted to make sure that the people that are watching this, they saw your 5%, 10%, and so on, and the pink and the green. The pink is the negative, and the green is the positive. Before you go on with RevMax, you were given. We'll talk about the revenue manager a little bit later on in this conversation, but every one of these boxes here are changeable by the user. So based on, and this perhaps may be our 2-bedroom oceanfront yield map here, and it's going to be different than the 2-bedroom oceanside or the 3-bedroom second row or a house or something like that. And we go through our rates, and we go through based on last year's occupancy, and we build with the help of our revenue manager, we build this map right here. And you may have this green line, it looks like that the white line's going right through the middle. That white line may be so far shifted to the left because your properties in this category fill up a lot quicker. And therefore you want to get into the green quicker than, as soon as possible. You obviously don't want the pink because you're discounting your rate some, because it has to be, but it's a good thing that if it does discount because you're getting in front of the people like you just said. But every one of these boxes are changeable. We've not only, when we went on, we changed them all again as we saw how this was working for the good. We went in and got a little bit more aggressive, and we changed every yield map box that we had that we started off with. Very, very easy, user friendly.
Yeah, thank you. So and then let me just go here. So this is the tape chart. So after the dynamic pricing is applied to your properties, it's going to take those rates and it's going to put them day by day onto this tape chart. The tape chart is going to show you the days of the week. It's going to show you, we pull in from our data partner, LSI Insights, we pull in market data. And so it's going to tell us what the market size is. Here we have a count of 342 properties that is pulling market data for. And it's just going to tell us how the larger market is doing. So it's a benchmark so that we can see how is our company doing, how's the larger market doing for this time frame. And so it's going to tell us, well, the market is at 48% occupancy. This is real data. This is not scraped data. This isn't OTA calendar data. This is going to be real life data from the property management systems for the marketplace. It's going to tell you what is the ADR. So how are rates moving through time here by day of week? You can see how rates are moving and how occupancies are moving. It's going to tell you what the average length of stay is. So if you're in, peak summertime and you're sticking with the 7-night minimum, and you start to see that as you get closer, those minimums start turning to 4 or 5, that other competitors are starting to reduce their length of stay requirements. And that's also a sign, if you come up and you look at occupancy, you might be able to decipher, okay, well, that's because occupancy is only at 49%. And they know that they need to be more flexible on their length of stay. And this may be kind of a trigger for me to start looking at which properties can I reduce my length of stay requirement for, so that we can start filling up more quickly and competing with this other inventory. It's also going to show you what RevPA is. So RevPA is sort of, I call it the key performance indicator to rule them all, because it's the most meaningful. It's taking all of the revenue that you're earning for a day, and it's dividing it by how many properties were available to be rented. So it's a true, because in our industry, we have a situation unlike hotels where they have fixed inventory. You have a hotel with 100 rooms, you're always going to have 100 rooms, it's never going to change. But for us, vacation rental inventory has changed a tremendous amount over time, especially in the past 3 years. And so we could have a certain amount of inventory one day, and the next day have more, the next month have a tremendous amount more. So what we really want to pay attention to is, if a lot of inventory supply is being added to our marketplace, it may start to bring down occupancy levels, which makes sense, right? Because you're spreading out the same amount of travelers over more inventory. So you really want to pay attention to that RevPA. That RevPA amount is going to be the amount that tells you how are things doing based upon what was available to be rented. And this amount is after owner nights are taken out. Okay, so it's going to put the selling rate on your tape chart here. And then you can interface with this. You can say, even though, it's doing this because it's a Monday and Tuesday, I really want to take these nights down to just under $100, because I just know that this property, is struggling a little bit. They need every bit that they can. And yielding got me 90, it was 90% solution. But for these 2 days, I just want to, interface with that a little bit and finesse that rate down a little bit more to be more attractive for the midweek. So you have complete control over there. And then you can also say, with some of these, I'm willing to take, this owner's really flexible. And so I'm willing to take, a 2-night stay, but I only want that 2-night stay to be on my Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday. And I'll take this one down too. So you can do all of these strategies after dynamic pricing is applied. So dynamic pricing does all of it's kind of like the big brush stroke work. And then you still have your tape chart for saying, okay, but I'm going to make these little incremental changes here too, because I have this local knowledge about the quality of the property, the intention of the owner, which is really hard for an algorithm to know. Like, some owners are investors and they say, just book me, I want to be booked 100% of the time. And then other owners say, well, I don't mind if I don't get a lot of bookings. I just want a minimum rate and I want a minimum length of stay. So depending upon the flexibility there, that helps to give you some ability to change things on here to be more aggressive over time. So I did want to ask you on that note, so what are you hearing in the industry about homeowner acquisitions? Like, with so many investors coming into the marketplace, are you really getting questions from people about what revenue management solutions you're using? Or are you hearing other people getting those questions, or people being more interested, owners being more interested in that sort of thing, the technology side?
Yes. This helps. 10, 20 years ago, you would go talk to an owner, or they'd come into your office and you would tell them, approximately how much you could generate in revenue for them every year. And with the LSI tools that come available, that you can look at projected income. You can also, when you're sitting down in front of, technology has obviously grown. over the decades that I've been in this business. And this is a great tool when you're sitting down showing a potential homeowner or a current homeowner. They just want to come in and discuss business, and you can show them what you've done. When you bring up a tape chart like this, and you let them know that, okay, you want $1,000 a week for your property. That's great. That's in the market, but you're going to have market swings like 21 when it went through the roof. And you're going to have other years that the ADR, like I feel like this year, the ADR is going to pull back just a little bit. And the booking window is going to shorten up. When you're looking at products, like RevMax, and you're showing them what you'll be able to do and how these market swings, the computer is going to be, the RevMax tool is going to be on it while you sleep. And it's going to drop that rate down 3%, which isn't a whole lot. But if that gets in front of a potential guest, that's more income to them. So this tool right here is a great tool to have in your toolkit when you're talking to an owner or owner acquisition. You're right. The inventory has exploded over the past several years. The supply is out there. The demand was out there in the past couple of years, which I guess we'll talk about later. But this year the demand's pulling back a little bit. Well, when it pulls back, then through the LSI and through the ADR, the RevPAR, like you were talking about, that will adjust the rates accordingly. To get the maximum number of the max rental income for that owner. But as far as owner acquisition, this is a great tool to have in your toolkit.
Yeah, and I just want to show you this. I just pulled this up too. This is available in RevMax as well. It's called the RevMax Rental Estimator. And so what this is going to do is it's going to take, this is going to be able to pull in PMS and OTA scrape data. So you're going to get a bigger picture available to you. And all you do is you come into the rental estimator and you have an owner and they say, this is the address of the property that I'm looking at buying, or, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, beachfront is what I'm going to get into. What do you think that I could get for something like that? What are the rentals coming in with? And so you put the address in the top here, and then you press submit, and it's going to give you this information. You can use the map to narrow in. So if you just want to get certain areas, you can do that. You can be more specific, but it's going to give you average monthly revenue for that. It's going to give you average annual revenue, occupancy percentage. It's going to get you the ADR. And then it's going to show you similar properties. And so these are going to be links that you can click into where it's going to show you these properties, and it'll show you the IDs. So this is going to give the occupancy in 2022 and 2022 revenue. So again, this is going to be a combination of PMS or scrape data, depending upon what they have available to them. And so it will pull on the calendar. It's going to pull occupied or unoccupied as far as your occupancy. So this gives at least like a benchmark, a starting point for, quick, you can do it in 30 seconds. You can generate a pro forma for them and say, this is what the market is approximately doing. And if you have enough comps on here, you're going to be able to see what the revenues are and, decide which one of these properties is most similar to the one that I'm looking at. And what is that occupancy and revenue estimate?
And we use this tool a lot. And, for all these years, the reservations department would call me up and say, Miller, there's a property at XYZ. What do you think we could look at for expected income? Because I've got a potential homeowner on the line. And you're going 25 to 30,000 or something. You would, based on your experience, you would tell them. Now my marketing director and my team can go in here. This is such a great tool that we use every time the owner in the past 2 months, and we're going to be using this with every potential owner. When you go in there, these numbers that you all are coming up with, the scrape data, from the OTAs, are super accurate. There's some other tools out there that I'm not gonna say companies, but there's some other tools out there that are throwing estimates that there's no way. I mean, they're grossly wrong. And the numbers that you all come up here with your projected estimated revenue that you can tell an owner, you can feel comfortable giving that number to them because your numbers are extremely accurate.
Thank you. So going into the trends, so you kind of touched on the trends already, but I just want to get like a little bit, you just came back from a conference, I know, and so you're hearing a lot, you're seeing a lot. What are you seeing as far as the trends for 2023 versus 2024? Where do you think this is going for the remainder of the year?
That's a great question. Everybody in our industry, we all, we were cruising up through 2019. We were on the upswing. Things were going great. 2020 hit. COVID shut us down. In the Myrtle Beach area, we had we bounced back very, very strong in 2020. And we had a pretty good year in 2020. We missed about a month and a half, but 21, the floodgates continued to be wide open. And if everything was booked 100% from April, March, all the way through the fall. It was a banner year for me and record-breaking year. And if I heard it once, I heard it dozens of times from people in the VRMA that I was talking to. It was a record year. 22, we had a little bit of a pullback because we were expecting some sort of a pullback because things couldn't be as great as they were. Cruise ships were now starting to open up. Europe, Canada was starting to open up. So we saw a little bit of a pullback in 22. 23, what we're experiencing here, and it really depends on your market because, and again, the conference that I just got back from in Northern Georgia, was from people from, as far north as Cape Cod, the Massachusetts area, all the way, down into Florida and east of the Mississippi. But the thing we're seeing in 2023, ADR is going to be pulling back this year. We are booking at levels higher than 2019 dollar-wise, but the booking window, as I mentioned a minute ago, is shortening, and people are booking. They're waiting because they can. The recession worries, inflation worries. They're waiting until May to book something in June. They're waiting in June to book their summer vacation in July, just like they did back in 19. The years and decades ago, they would book in December, January, February, and your summer was set. Well, then as we went through time, the booking window shortened and people were booking, today on Thursday for a vacation starting Saturday for a week. Well, 20, 21, and 22, we didn't see any of that. We were spoiled with what we got to experience with these longer booking windows out. Now the booking windows coming in, ADR is going to come down. I don't think it's going to come down as low as 19 ADR, but again, it depends on your market. Like the Panhandle of Florida, I hear, is experiencing a fantastic upcoming June. We're not experiencing that great of a June right now, so we're making adjustments. RevMax is making adjustments right now, for June. So 23 is going to be an interesting year. I think it'll be better money-wise, revenue-wise than 2019. But we've got to put our thinking hat back on and lean on the tools that are out there in our industry to help us.
Yeah, I would actually confirm that that's exactly what we're seeing. So in RevMax, we don't just have the software, but we have a educational and consulting arm. So we have actual revenue managers on staff that meet with a portfolio of clients on a weekly or monthly basis. And so that's available to VRM as well if you would like to sign up for a program like that, if you need somebody that is a revenue manager. But what our revenue managers are seeing is the same thing. So the shoulder times have become way more competitive. So if you're seeing that your spring, as you're moving closer, that you're not getting the same pickup within a 30-day window, it's because the spring is just not as, it's way more competitive out there. So what we talked about earlier, which is that increase in supply as demand slows, and it's like, well, we were doing great with when demand was high with all that increased supply, but now that the waters are receded, we have all of this extra supply and the demand is just not keeping up. Now, keep in mind, all of the data suggests that the demand is way higher than it was in 2019 for vacation rentals. But when you're spreading it out over all that supply, like on the tape chart, when we saw the occupancy percentage, and I was like, yeah, the occupancy percentage, you have to be kind of careful, because if you have more supply, you could have about the same number of travelers as in previous years, but now more supply to spread all those travelers across. And the result of that is that your occupancy per property is going to take a hit, right? Which of course means that people have to be more responsive from an ADR perspective. And so that's what dynamic pricing you were talking about. That's what it can do, is it's going to be working like while you're off, while you're asleep. You set the parameters, you set the guardrails, right? So we're not going to go too high, we're not going to go too low. These are our guardrails. And you can set this by property too. So if you have one owner that says, I'm just really, really sensitive, I don't want any more than 10%. We know back in the old days, we were doing all of the discounting by coupons, right? 10% off, 15% off. And, some owners would participate in promos, and some owners would say, well, I don't really want to participate in those kinds of things. So it's the same kind of thing. We set the guardrails for what the owner's goals are, and what price sensitivity that they might have. And then we let the system sense what demand is doing. And so you're not going to miss out on, oh gosh, I hadn't looked at my data for this week and my sales were, way off. I could have made system pricing changes or length of stay changes and I missed out. That's not what's going to happen. Your system is going to automatically make those changes for you. We also have a tool called dynamic minimal nights. And so dynamic minimal nights, I'll just sum it up for you. It's where you pre-program in and you say, for these properties, and you can select which properties it is. If I get within a 30-day window and they're not full, reduce my length of stay from where it is by one night for the upcoming 30 days. If I'm 2 weeks out and I still have empty inventory, go ahead and bring it down by one more night. So you can automate the system so that the system would do what you would do anyway. And that's the time savings in there for you, is that you don't have to keep repeating those same processes over and over again. Anything that's repeatable, you would just be able to put it in the software, and the software would just do those processes for you.
Yeah, and then with that, on that note, that reminded me, with the number of yield maps, we have dozen or more yield maps and where properties go into these maps. We have some owners that under no circumstance do not want a discount at all. Well, their yield map looks like it's got the white in there in the middle. Everything to the right is green, and there's no pink on it at all. You do not discount my property. We have some owners that only want to give a maximum of 10% discount. So some people are out there thinking, well, when I put a special out there, what if you've discounted? What if I'm into the pink by 5% and you give a 15% discount on your website? Well, now you're giving someone a 20% discount, which you've broken the rules with that owner because he's maxed out at 15%. There's another yield chart, a yield map that you can put those properties on that will only go down, no matter where it's at, will only go down to 10%. You may end up giving a 7% discount because the rate's gone up 3 and you've given 10, so you're only giving a 7%, but you're still following those parameters. But it's so easy to use. And the one thing which we'll get into about, how we got on board and where we are now, the thing that's so easy to use is there's so many yield maps that you make and you decide and you put your properties on whatever yield map they need to go on. And, like you're right, the 7 nights, 4 nights, 3 nights, and things like that, it's automatically done. And it's really, really easy to use.
So I really like this question a lot, because there's a lot of places you can go from here, but what things would you not have considered as part of the revenue management conversation that you see now as being an important part of the system? So this kind of goes back to that whole ecosystem of one thing affects another thing, affects another thing, affects another thing, and that outcome, trying to get to the outcome that you want. That's a great question. And I would have done revenue. I wish I would have done revenue management, RevMax, years ago. If I could have taken advantage of
20, 21, and 22 years, my homeowners and myself, we'd be a lot happier. I was not aware. I was not aware of revenue management like I should be. I did not ask the right amount of questions. Knowing what I know now, going into it, the manipulation, that's the wrong word I'm going to say, but the ability to manipulate your properties using your product and how you can put people in one yield map versus the other map and so on. The strongest advice I would give someone now and what I would do then, versus now is ask questions. Generate, get the dog and pony show, have your entire staff, anybody that's in the vacation department, not maintenance or anything, but anybody that's going to be using this or affiliated with this, sit around the computer and listen to your introduction and your dog and pony show, so to speak, and ask questions. We didn't ask questions about discounts, about what about, we always have a discount. Everybody's got a discount these days. How do you adjust on that? Well, when we finally got on board and started going, decided to keep our spring fling discount in there. You had a solution to it, but knowing now what I wish I'd have known then, I would have asked a whole lot more questions. It would have been less work on our part to get this thing, to get everything up and running. We didn't have any major headaches. We had some hurdles to get over, but it was self-induced because we didn't ask the right questions going in.
Yeah. So, I think that people get tripped up with the whole concept of revenue management, because they say, well, in my seasons, I'm changing my rates. My rates go down during my low season. My rates go up during my high season. Isn't that enough? And what revenue management does is it takes, okay, so you have a demand curve here, right? For your seasonality, a seasonal demand curve. So you have the low season, you peak up and you come down. And I try to describe this to people like visually. Revenue management is taking what you already have and you're already pricing for, right? You're already pricing the low rates in the low season and pricing the high rates in the high season and your seasons, and they come across. What revenue management is going to do is it's going to take this low and this high, and it's going to try to flatten it out as much as possible. So your curve looks more like this. Mm-hmm. And the how it does that is it's going to be putting pricing, it's going to be using pricing power in order to reduce the demand for your product through filtering for people who would pay higher rates during the specific days and specific weeks that are showing more extraordinary demand than you would have initially thought, right? Than you would have initially priced for. If it's seeing that demand, it's gonna put the price up, right? Which puts a kind of like a filter on for people, so that when they're looking at your property, they're saying, oh, I'm not willing to pay that high rate. And the people that will buy the product are the ones who are willing to pay that higher price point. And then the same thing happens when you come out here to your shoulders, you have, again, where you have priced it where you think it probably should be, but you might have during those shoulders, you might have 1 week on either side that's really just doing great, right? It's behaving almost like a summer season demand, because the rates just have this tiny change there, right? And people go for the week that has that tiny change. And so if you're in a down economy, like we're seeing some downward pressure here economically, those shoulders can absolutely, and I'm seeing it in real life, outperform some of your peak timeframes. So you're thinking, what in the world happened? Like my August is just outperforming any of my expectations. Well, it's because that week when the rates drop, or the week right before the rates go up, you're seeing that demand going in there, because people are trying to be a little bit more responsible with their spending, and they're like, well, I can shift a couple of weeks in order to get this better price point. So what happens is the system will sense up, we have higher demand here than normal, and so I'm just going to start creating this slow escalation in price. And so I'm going to get you a premium. So you're walking away with sometimes 10, 15% more per night for a portion of your inventory that was booking really strongly there than you would have before. And you do that day after day after day, completely, repeat, feathering out over time. And the gains year over year are going to be great. Now, keep in mind too, during the slow season, the goal is occupancy. I tell people you play 2 games. You play rate game and you play occupancy game. In the shoulder season, it's all about occupancy, right? If we can fill those shoulders with guests, and especially guests with longer lengths of stay, then your database of repeat guests, it's filling up with people who have a staying pattern of staying during your off season. And that's where the battle is won or lost, is in that shoulder and off season. So you want to fill those in there. I did have a question about your revenue manager. So I know you loved your revenue manager because you told me so, but, and you can say her name too, if you would like, but how did the RevMax revenue manager you worked with during onboarding help your team?
I'll share her name now because we've gone through the process, because I didn't want to share her before, but Kimberly Karen, you all, once we did the introductory call and what products we have, and like you said, we chose the max yield from your list of products, and you assigned us with Kimberly. I'm telling you what, she called us up the first day, shared the screen. We jumped in, we had some questions. She unloaded everything on us. This is, what we're going to do. Here's the time frame. Here's your homework. This is what it does. Let's ask some questions. Give me an example of, some of your properties. I've gone ahead and made a yield map for you, just an example of looking at your product and going back and looking at your, we call it the 0 line of where it goes green or pink. So here is, here's an example right here. It's Thursday. When are you all available next week? How about Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever? Let's get back on the phone, and hopefully you'll have your homework done by then. But of course, anytime between now and then, reach out to me, which we did. And she would immediately call us back or set up a call. We'd share her screen and go, all right, Kimberly, I don't think we get this part. And she would say, okay, what do you think? And she would just give us the answer. She'd walk us through it and help us answer it ourselves. She was awesome. We had last week, we had an issue with an internal issue with discounting. We're trying to help fill up early part of June before the peak kicks in, like you were saying, and we're trying to increase our percentage of discounts. To let's say 20 or 25%, let's say. And so in doing so, we needed to kind of tweak the rates, in RevMax, which feeds back to VRM. We're trying to tweak those a little bit. We had a few questions. We reach out to her. She's right there for us, comes back on there. And I'm sure Kimberly's one of many revenue managers you all have, but she is the holding hands, getting you on board, walking you through it, giving you homework for it, calling back and saying, okay, I'm seeing this is happening, we need to make some adjustments. You all just don't sell the product. Having a revenue manager upload your product, get it set up, show you how to use it, and see you later. She's right there. So she works great, very well in hand with VRM, because when you turn your product on with the RevMax, it pretty much takes your rates from VRM, and RevMax is really running your rates right now. So there's a very key important ingredient there that, the conversation between VRM and RevMax, which it is, the integration's got to be there, got to be open, because that's where your rates are coming from. But Kimberly, kudos to Kimberly. I've never met her in person, talked to her a dozen times on the phone, on Zoom calls. We share our screen, she shares her screen. The onboarding process could not have been easier and productive. It was wonderful.
That's really nice to hear. I do have one last question for you. Okay. So if you were to give advice, okay, so you kind of already touched on this earlier, that you kind of wish that you had gotten in on this before the pandemic so that you could have ridden that wave and used revenue management while you were going through that. But For somebody who isn't using a revenue management tool, somebody who's just, doing research and thinking about it, what advice would you give them based upon what you've learned?
I'll give you an example that I was going to say a little earlier. I know RevMax is working because I believe it was last week. One of my reservationists came back and said, I just got off a strange call. And I said, what happened? We had a 3-bedroom oceanfront, and this guest called up and I quoted the price. And I want to say it's $4,400 or whatever it was. And the guest said, have you lost your mind? Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous. And our comment, when we looked at the screen, it's the only week we had available for the summer. So our answer was, it's the last week available, ma'am. I mean, if you don't want it, someone else is going to take it, and have a nice day. So RevMax is working because that rate had gone well into the green, and we had increased the rates, which last year and 27 years before now, it would have been priced way down here. Someone would have gotten a heck of a deal, but because, it's the same way the airline industry and the hotel industry, it goes up. So to answer your question, like I said before, if any advice to anybody out there, and I'll be happy, I don't know if Andrea is going to share my information, but please feel free to reach out to me or any of my staff. Don't wait. There's not a bad time to start. You may be thinking, crap, my rental season's right here coming upon me. It's spring break. People are coming to the beach or the mountains or wherever you are. There's no bad time to start. When you sign up, you get on board, you get your revenue manager that works with your software, your PMS, everything. There's not a bad time to start. Get on board now, because if you don't, you're going to be losing. You're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table starting tomorrow for the rest of this year. We need it this year, I think, more than the past 3 or 4 years. And it's not a race. Don't, when you decide tomorrow you want to go with RevMax and you call them up and get on board, don't feel like you have to get this thing up and running by next Thursday. Take your time and ask a lot of questions, because my company is different than yours, which is different than yours. Ask a lot of questions, bring up, and then even ask your revenue manager, okay, I've asked you 20 questions. What have I not asked that other companies you've heard, like Booe Realty, we didn't ask the question about the discounts and how those discounts were going to be handled, or the properties that did not allow discounts, and so on. Ask a lot of questions, because the revenue manager you assign to that new client is well versed and has been around the block and knows what they're doing. But no, my main 2 topics, my 2 answers are: don't wait, and there's not a bad time to start. Don't wait till the fall thinking, oh, I need the off season this is not a new property management system you're onboarding. This is not a new accounting system you're onboarding. This is so super easy to use that it works well with your current PMS, that there's time to start yesterday.
Yeah, it's not just a tool for the peak season or for peak years. It brings you occupancy in those slow years. It brings you peak rates during high years. But the curve is, we're constantly on these economic cycles. We just had a really big one, but the cycle will go through again, because it always has, and it always will. And so you don't want to be missing out on any opportunity that is coming in the future. So if anybody has any questions or wants information about RevMax, you can send in a email to VRM support, VRM support at getrevmax.com, VRM support at getrevmax.com. You can also find us at online at getrevmax.com if you'd like more information.
Or you can reach out to me directly, and we will be sending out a recap of this webinar. So if you want to rewatch it or find contact information in that email, I will share Miller's contact information if you guys want to reach out to him directly, and just have a further conversation on the solution. Thank you guys so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. And we will look forward to next month's webinar. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.